Welcome back to Figure Depot. Can't tell you how excited it was to walk into a Walmart, go down the toy aisle, and see a bunch of 80s action figures. Like, what decade am I in? You had G.I. Joe up there. We had, of course, our Marvel Legends, which would have been what you would have seen with Secret Wars figures back in the day. And then you had the Masters of the Universe stuff just hanging there on the shelf looking awesome. So very, very excited to see that. I'm still a little bit high off that experience. It's very cool. But anyway, we're going to take a look at Masters of the Universe He-Man. This is the new for 2020 modern posing retro play. Does come with a mini comic, just like the classic figures. Of course, we have our exploding lava rock background with our space sky in the background and all the classic lettering and text as well. We got our Mattel logo there at the bottom. Very cool. Spinning it around to the back, we've got some cool artwork here, and we get what we have seen classically with the other figures featured in the line, and then a demonstration of the action features and poses that come with the figure. And I'll bring that in just a little bit closer. So very cool. Just awesome to see all this again. Here, just to look at the front. It's even got the little bubble indention right there on the chest, like you would have seen classically. Peg holes on the feet. Here's a look at the card up top, up close. Very cool. So stoked for this. I hate to open this, but let's do it. Alright, here's a quick look at the mini comic. It's the Beast Barrage. We see the Shadow Beast down here and Beast Man in the background. Some cool artwork of He-Man. There's Prince Adam. Tila chilling. Drawing his sword out. I have the power. And we got a little battle going on. So, and then we get some the other figures featured in Wave 1 displayed on the back again, just like on the back of the card back. Very cool. Now, in terms of accessories, we get this really cool shield. And it's curved, unlike the classic shield, which was flat, as you can see here, and just a little bit smaller. So they've upsized it just a little bit, which I always thought He-Man's shield was kind of tiny anyway. This was like snapped together classically, so they had a little orange disc in the back, but this is just one piece and painted. So poured from a mold. So I like the curved edge of the shield. I think that's a really nice touch for this modern version. We also get the battle axe. Now, the classic battle axe had, of course, a lot more detail on it. This one is very simple in design. The mast of the axe is got some detail to it, but the blades themselves, they just have a slight bevel on either side, and then they have this real plain surface. There was lots of engraving and detail in the classic one. You can see on the MOTU classics, they did the detail that's a lot more, pronounced. But in this new line, they have gone with just a much simpler design. And last but not least, we have the Power Sword. So very cool Power Sword design, and a lot more geared towards the Alcala He-Man look in the design. It doesn't have the balls on the end. If we look at this sword, we can see on the vintage one where, and this is broken here. Let me get the other one. Sorry. So yeah, we've got they connect and stuff in the old one, but this new one, it does not. And it's actually, I just noticed the bend, the little hand guard or whatever, is bent the opposite way. Sorry, I was out of focus. It's bent the opposite way of the one we get now. So that's interesting. And of course, just like the classic one, it has a way to attach to Skeletor's sword. So you had this disc and then a groove in the other one classically, and then on this one we've got some peg holes for them to attach. And now we'll get a close-up look at our He-Man figure. You very instantly recognize the classic body sculpt of the torso and the design of the harness. But one thing you'll notice that's different is the forearm plate on the vintage figure they were not painted either side, and on this side it was a larger, different shaped design. Covered the whole forearm instead of a little cuff at the base. And then also you'll notice that there's different color here. Instead of just being brown solid, you get a little you get this little different colored little fur portion of the boots there. We do of course have an updated head sculpt, which is very different than our classic head sculpt, and the old one is squishy but the new one is not. It's solid. If you flip them over to the back, you'll notice that the harness is a little bit different in design. So the classic harness, you can see, connects with two buckles here and then a buckle in the middle, and our new harness just has this tab right here in the center. And then of course the red squares go all the way down to the midpoint of the harness, whereas on the original one you just got 3 on each side at the top. We also get a richer, more vibrant red, so definitely based on the original design, but definitely some updates in terms of the color combinations and things. The articulation is what we will get into next. Alright, so for articulation, the head is on a ball peg, and it does swivel, of course, down in the bottom, and then at the top in the neck. So you pop that on and off, no problem. He can look down to there. You can look up just slightly because, of course, his hair hits his shoulders. We do get arms that rotate 360, come out to the side. We do get a bend at the elbow, and I've not tried to bend mine yet. There it goes. So not quite a 90-degree bend, but still good. We do get a swivel at the bicep and forearm rather than at the bicep and deltoid, because it's one molded piece. And then we do have wrists that swivel back and forth and hinge. And we have, of course, his weapon holding hand for the sword there. Then we got his hand here that will hold the shield. So this waist joint swivels and pops apart. So you can do lots of interchanging with that. Leg does kick forward slightly, not a full 90 again. It doesn't really go back much. We do get a single jointed bend that pretty much gives us 45 degrees there at the knee. We do have a swivel at the boot, of course, and then we have toes that rock up, rock down really far, and we do have a pivot. So posing him is going to be awesome compared with the classic figures. So in similar fashion as the classic toy, you just clip the clip onto the forearm there and then stick his fingers into the hand guard. We will put our axe there on the back. That fits really nice. And then we'll take our power sword and just kind of fish it in there. And he doesn't really hold it super well unless you curve it down in there good. So make sure you rotate it down into the hand to get a nice good fix. And like, I wish these were ball jointed, because to do his "I have the power," you still can't quite get that pose out of this guy, because it's just a swivel and a hinge. But there he is, kind of set up in a battle pose, and we can get his shield across in front of his body to protect him, like we could not do, of course, with the vintage figure. So the best we could do with this guy, trying to emulate that same pose, is that right there. So you can see there's definitely a difference in what we're able to do with our modern figure versus what we could do with the classic figures. For some quick size comparisons, of course, our classic He-Man and this He-Man are essentially the same size. However, because you're able to extend his legs straight up and get him out of that squatting position, he appears taller when standing side by side the classic figures. And here is our new He-Man Origins figure with the Faker from the classic line. And you can see they look really awesome next to each other. And here we have our Origins He-Man with probably my favorite, well, not my favorite. I think my favorite's probably either the vintage He-Man or Battle Armor He-Man. And the old Faker, just kind of all in first place. But in second place, a strong second place, is Buzz-Off, who I've always just loved this character. I love the design, I think it's very cool, and it's one of my favorite figures in the MOTU class, the classic MOTU line from the 80s. And here he is with Battle Armor He-Man, and you can see they look cool. We are getting Battle Armor He-Man in the MOTU Origins line, so those were just announced, I think, yesterday. So it'll be cool to see those when they come out. Can't wait for that. And here is our Origins He-Man next to a vintage Tila, and you can see they compare well enough with one another in height. And one of the things I don't like about the female figures in this line, I think on the male figures it's not as noticeable, but the weird cut at the base of the knee, it's got a real big, huge edge on it. It's not a smooth transition like you'd see on a Marvel Legends figure. It's this big, gappy, huge, like plate-looking thing at the base of the knee, and to me it's just a little bit off-putting, and it casts weird shadows on the figures when you are under certain lighting. And here is our Masters of the Universe Classics He-Man next to our Origins He-Man. And you can see that he's definitely much larger. Of course, the Masters of the Universe Classics were set to be in more of like a 7-inch scale, whereas the Origins line is meant to emulate more that 5-inch scale that we originally got with the 80s line of Masters of the Universe figures. And here we have our Masters of the Universe Classics He-Man on Battle Cat, and then we have our vintage 80s Battle Cat with the Origins He-Man on top of him, because I don't have the, of course, new one yet, but it's actually somewhere between the size of these two. It's just a little bit bigger than the vintage one and a little bit smaller than what we got in the Masters of the Universe Classics line, so can't wait to see that thing in person. The articulation on it is not as good as this one, but it's certainly better than this solid molded piece that had no articulation, so can't wait to see what they've done with that. It's going to be really cool. And last but not least, here is our Origins He-Man figure with the Masters of the WWE line figures. We have the Ultimate Warrior and Sting, and this crazy guy, I can't remember his name, not a fan. but the figure looked cool. So, as you know, as I mentioned earlier, you can swap different parts around and stuff. So if we want He-Man to have different lower legs, we can pop his leggies off and then take these guys right here, pop these back on, and that looks really strange, but you can do it if you want to. Alright, well, that's gonna wrap it up for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Very excited for this line. I probably will not get just a ton of the figures in this line because I really like my classic ones, and I just can't collect another line. It's too expensive. Kind of dialing some of that back a little bit. So, but anyway, I'll pick up some of my favorites here and there, and of course review those for you. Please leave a comment below. Let me know what your favorite Masters of the Universe figure is, or your Masters of the Universe character and corresponding figure if you have a favorite. And be sure to check out my Instagram here in the next week or so. I'm going to try to get these guys outside and do some outdoor shots with my Masters of the Universe stuff. I haven't done that yet. I've done kind of just a bunch of indoor stuff on dioramas and so on. So I did some a long time ago, maybe a couple years ago, but I'd like to get a fresh shoot in, especially with some of these vintage figures in the back. I really want to see some of them in front of the camera. So anyway, leave a comment below and let me know what kind of pictures you'd like me to shoot, and I'll try to get some of those shot. Alright, see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.